The guard locked the door from the inside. That's how Mike Tyson knew this wasn't a random cell check. You don't lock yourself in with an inmate. Not unless you're more afraid of what's outside than what's in here with you. Guard Patterson stood with his back to the bars, keys still in the lock behind him. The hallway beyond was empty. D-Block sleeping or pretending to. In a place like Indiana Youth Center, you learn the difference between silence and hell breath. "You comfortable?" Patterson asked. Mike sat on his bunk, back against concrete. "Do I look comfortable?" "Fair enough." Patterson pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Commissary list. He didn't open it, just held it. A prop. Something to explain why he was here if anyone asked later. "How long you been down?" "You know how long." 47 days, Patterson said. "Which means you're still new enough to make a choice about who you're going to be in here." Mike's hands rested on his knees. Still, he'd learned stillness from Cuz. How a fighter's power isn't in movement. It's in the moment before movement. The space where anything's possible and nothing's happened yet. Patterson studied him. "Hector Ruiz. You know him?" "I know everyone who needs knowing." "Then you know he's a problem." Patterson's voice dropped. "The kind of system can't fix. Too connected. Too careful. Never puts his hands on anything dirty himself." "So why you telling me?" Patterson's eyes didn't blink. "Because yesterday, he sent a 19-year-old kid to the infirmary. Kid won't say why. Won't say who. But I know. And I can't do shit about it." The ventilation system kicked on. Hot air through metal grates, but you could. Mike understood. Understood completely. The guard wasn't asking for justice. He was asking for violence. And the worst part? Mike didn't know if he had any left to give. Patterson unlocked the door 20 minutes later. Didn't say another word. Just walked away like they'd been discussing nothing more important than weather. Mike didn't sleep that night. He lay on his bunk and stared at the ceiling, water-stained concrete that had witnessed 1,000 men stare at it the same way. Wondering, calculating, trying to figure out which version of themselves would walk out of here. Cuz used to say that a fighter's character showed in the space between rounds. When the crowd went quiet. When the lights felt too bright. When you had to decide if you were going to answer the bell or stay on the stool. Because never trained anyone for this. For a world where the right thing and the wrong thing wore the same face. Morning count came at 6 a.m. Doors opened at 6:30. Breakfast at 7:00. Mike moved through the routine like everyone else. Didn't make eye contact. Didn't look for Hector. In prison, looking was a language, and he wasn't ready to speak yet. But in the chow line, he saw Marcus, the kid Patterson had mentioned. 19, but looked 16. Skinny arms, nervous hands, eyes that checked every corner of the room before sitting down. He took a table in the back. Alone. The kind of alone that wasn't choice. It was quarantine. Everyone knew what being alone meant in here. That IT meant you were owned. Mike carried his tray to his own table. Ate his eggs without tasting them. But he watched. Watched Marcus push food around his plate. Watched him flinch when someone walked too close. Watched him check the clock every 30 seconds like he was counting down to something. And then Hector walked in. You felt him before you saw him. The way conversations got quieter. The way men shifted in their seats. Not fear exactly, respect. The kind you give to fire. Acknowledgement that it could burn you if you weren't careful. Hector was 42 but moved like he was 25. Shaved head, geometric tattoos running up his neck. Eyes that calculated everything and revealed nothing. He didn't walk to the food line. He never did. Someone always brought him a tray. Today, it was Marcus. The kid stood up with his own uneaten breakfast, carried it across the cafeteria, and set it in front of Hector like an offering. Hector didn't thank him, didn't acknowledge him. Just started eating while Marcus stood there, waiting for permission to leave. Hector took his time. Ate slowly. Made the kid stand there for 5 minutes while the whole room watched. Finally, he waved his hand. Dismissal. Marcus walked back to his table. Sat down. Stared at the empty space where his food had been. Mike felt something shift in his chest. Something old. Something he thought prison had beaten out of him. Yard time was at 2:00 p.m. 200 men in a concrete square. Weights in one corner. Basketball court in another. Most just walked in circles or stood in clusters, talking about nothing because there was nothing else to do. Mike went to the pull-up bars. worked his shoulders, felt the ache, the stretch, the familiar burn that reminded him his body still belonged to him even if nothing else did. Hector held court by the weight bench. 6 men around him, laughing at his jokes, nodding at his words. The structure of power was simple. Proximity meant protection. Distance meant you were expendable. Marcus sat on a bench near the fence, far from everyone, reading a book, or pretending to. His eyes weren't moving across the page. Mike finished his set, walked toward the water fountain. The path took him close to Hector's circle. He felt their attention shift, felt them size him up. In here, everyone knew who he was. Former heavyweight champion, convicted rapist, the man who had everything and lost it all. Hector's voice cut through the yard noise. Tyson. Mike stopped, turned. Hector was smiling. The kind of smile that wasn't friendly, it was territorial. Heard you were good with your hands. Used to be. Used to be. Hector nodded slowly. That's the problem with legends, right? They're all past tense. He looked at his crew. They laughed on cue. You're just a man now, like the rest of us. Mike said nothing. But respect, Hector continued. You had a run, made some money, knocked some people out. He stood up, walked closer, close enough that the guards on the tower could see them talking but not hear what was being said. But that was outside. In here, the rules are different. In here, reputation is something you earn fresh every day. Mike held his ground. I'm not looking for trouble. Nobody is. Hector's smile faded, but it finds people anyway. He glanced over at Marcus, still sitting alone by the fence. Especially young people who don't understand how things work. There it was, the message beneath the message. Kids not your concern, Mike said quietly. Kids whoever's concern, I say he is. Hector's voice dropped to a whisper. And right now, you're concerning me. The way you're looking over there. Like you're thinking about being someone's hero. Mike felt his pulse in his neck. Steady. Controlled. Heroes don't last long in here, Tyson. They get shanked in the shower. They get hot water thrown on them while they sleep. They get transferred to places where guards don't bother checking cells. Hector's eyes were flat. Empty. You understand me? I understand you. Good. Hector stepped back, because I'd hate for a legend to become a cautionary tale. He walked away. His crew followed, and Mike stood there in the middle of the yard, feeling 200 men pretend they hadn't just witnessed him get checked. That night, Patterson came back. Didn't lock the door this time. Just stood outside the cell like they were neighbors having a conversation. You talked to him? Mike didn't ask who. Yeah. And he made it clear what happens if I interfere. Patterson nodded. So you're going to let it go? It wasn't a question. It was resignation. Mike looked at the guard. Really looked at him. Saw the lines around his eyes. The gray in his hair. The weight of years spent watching things happen that he couldn't stop. How long you been working here? Mike asked. 14 years. That's a long time to watch. Patterson's jaw tightened. Longest years of my life. They stood in silence. The kind that held more than words. Kid's name is Marcus DeLeon, Patterson finally said. From Cincinnati. Mom's a nurse. Dad died when he was 12. Got caught with an ounce of weed at a traffic stop. First offense. Judge gave him 18 months to teach him a lesson. Mike closed his eyes. First week he was here, Hector's crew targeted him. Made him run errands. Small stuff at first. Deliver messages. Hold contraband. But it escalated. Always does. Patterson's voice was quiet. Almost broken. 2 days ago, they made him do something he can't come back from. Something that'll haunt him longer than any prison sentence. What did they make him do? Patterson shook his head. Doesn't matter. What matters is that kid's got 4 months left. For months before he goes home to a mother who still thinks her son is salvageable. But if nothing changes, he's not making it 4 months. He's either going to be completely broken or he's going to kill himself trying to get out from under Hector's thumb. Mike opened his eyes. And you think I can stop that? I think you're the only one who can. Patterson met his gaze. Because Hector respects one thing, violence. And you're the only man in here he knows can deliver it in ways he can't prepare for. You're asking me to become what put me in here. No. Patterson's voice was firm now. I'm asking you to remember why Cuz trained you in the first place. To protect people who can't protect themselves. He walked away, left Mike alone with the question he'd been avoiding since the day he arrived. Was he still a fighter? Or just a prisoner? The decision came at 3:17 a.m. Mike couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Marcus's face, the way the kid's hand shook, the way he carried food to Hector like a servant, the way he sat alone, pretending to read, while his childhood died in real time. Mike had been that kid once, different circumstances, different city, different specifics, but the same isolation, the same feeling that the world was a predator and you were prey. 'Cause it saved him, gave him discipline, purpose, power, taught him that strength wasn't about hurting people, it was about protecting them. And what had Mike done with that lesson? He'd hurt the one person he should have protected. That's what the jury said. That's what the world believed. And sitting here in this cell, in this prison, wearing this number, Mike couldn't argue with them. But maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance to prove Kaz hadn't been wrong about him. That somewhere beneath the monster the world saw, there was still the boy who wanted to matter. Morning count. Breakfast. Yard time. Mike didn't go to the pull-up bars. He walked straight to the weight bench where Hector sat, surrounded by his crew, holding court like always. The yard went quiet. Not silent. Just quiet enough that everyone could hear what was about to happen. Mike stopped 5 feet away. We need to talk. Hector looked up, smiled. That same territorial smile. We already talked, Tyson. Not about this. About what? Marcus. The smile faded. That kid's not your business. I'm making him my business. Hector stood up slowly. His crew moved closer. A wall of bodies. You threatening me? I'm telling you. Mike's voice was steady. Calm. The way Kaz taught him. Leave him alone. Whatever he was doing for you, it's over. Find someone else. The yard was silent now. Hector stepped closer. Close enough to smell the coffee on his breath. And if I don't, Mike didn't blink. Then you and I have a problem. You're in prison, Tyson. You put hands on me. You add years to your sentence. That math worked for you. Better than the alternative. Which is, Mike leaned in, whispered so only Hector could hear. I've got nothing left to lose. You've got everything. Your crew, your reputation, your power. All of it depends on people believing you're untouchable. He pulled back, spoke louder now. For everyone. But you're not untouchable. You're just a man. And I've spent my whole life breaking men who thought they were something more. The yard held its breath. Hector's eyes searched Mike's face, looking for weakness, for bluff, for anything that said this was negotiable. He found nothing. This is a mistake, Hector said quietly. Probably. Mike turned around, started walking away, then stopped. But it's my mistake, and I'll live with it. He walked back to his cell, waited for the consequences. They never came. 3 days later, Patterson stopped by Mike's cell during night shift. Marcus got transferred, he said. Different facility, closer to his family. Early release program. Mike looked up from his bunk. How? Paperwork. Patterson smiled slightly. Sometimes it gets filed right when it needs to. They didn't say anything else that didn't need to. Patterson walked away, and Mike lay back down, staring at the water-stained ceiling. He still didn't know who he was in here. Still didn't know if he was a fighter or a prisoner. But for the first time in 47 days, he thought maybe, just maybe, Kaz would have been proud. And in a place like this, maybe that was enough.